Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing, the podcast. This is Tim Schur, and today I've got something special for you. I haven't had a chance to do a live podcast or interview in a little while, simply because I've had so much going on with growing my companies, and or I should say with my growing companies. And so I did an interview for a friend, and his name is Carnduff. And he is 21 years old, and he is a rising star in the field of peak performance. And I've been kind of mentoring him for about 2 years now, and he's going to be something one day. He's already amazing, but I can just imagine where he's going to be, 10 or 20 years from now with what he knows. But anyway, he asked if I would be on his podcast show. He's got a great following on Instagram, and his list knows me. His followers have heard my name because he's referenced me on many occasions. And so he asked if he could get into my head and interview me. And I thought that that would be scary and fun for everybody. And so anyway, so I said afterwards, hey, that was great. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. Do you think I could share that podcast recording with my achievers? And of course, he said yes. So I'm going to go ahead and have you listen to our conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. So, all right, here we go. Thanks. So I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Hope you got some golden nuggets from it. I will be back live next time with some more insights on how to be mesmerizing. And we're going to be focusing on business and making lots of money while you're making a difference as we move into that segment. That's what I've been focusing on with a lot of people right now. And so I want to share the insights, the stories, the ideas, and the strategies and tactics that will allow you, and if you have a company or you work for one, how to make your professional life mesmerizing. So make sure that you tune in for that. And even if you're not motivated by making more money or growing a company, you'll still get a lot of value from all the tips and tools that you're going to get from it. So thanks again for listening. I really appreciate you. If you have a few minutes, make sure that you leave a glowing review, because those reviews make a huge difference. More people will follow us and become a part of our achiever community. And the more of us there are, the stronger we will continue to be together, and the bigger difference, the more of a difference than we can make. All right, so anyway, I hope that you make today a sure success, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Here's the question. What's going on inside the minds of top achievers that cause them to make extraordinary breakthroughs both personally and professionally? My name is Tim Schur, and I invite you to join me as we take a deep dive into the unconscious mind and discover how to transform your biggest dreams into a reality. Welcome to the How to Be Mesmerizing podcast.
All right.
Well, welcome. How are you?
Outstanding. How are you today?
Never been better.
Ooh, outstanding. That's awesome.
So, if most of my followers know who Tim is, right? They go, well, is that like one of your mentors, one of your teachers? So, kind of tell them who you are. That's sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah, you want them to keep listening to this, right? So,
yeah.
Yes. So I am a mind coach and a success strategist. So what in the world does that mean? That means that I grew up with a whole bunch of anxiety. I had a lot of self-doubt. I didn't feel like I was good enough or worthy enough or smart enough. And I just had a lot of bad experiences from being bullied, and my dad almost dying in an accident at a steel mill where he worked as an electrician. So in my mind, I was afraid all the time. I was just afraid that bad things were going to happen, and I didn't know how to handle it or prevent it. And it created a lot of unnecessary suffering. And so as I got older, I decided to go to school for psychology because I thought maybe I could figure me out. And so while I was going to school for psychology, they would have guest speakers that would come in, and one of them happened to be a hypnotist. And they asked for a volunteer, and I said, sure, I'll cluck like a chicken, because I didn't know anything about hypnosis. But I didn't cluck like a chicken. What happened actually transformed my entire life. And it would end up transforming the lives of tens of thousands of people as well. And so what happened was I closed my eyes, and in that moment, that anxiety that I walked around with, that had that feeling that was always telling me something bad was going to happen, it went away. It disappeared.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is happening here? I felt peaceful. I felt bliss. I felt calm. I felt safe. I'm like, what is going on? And so to make a long story short, I got hooked on that. I wanted to know how to tap into that power that we are walking around with, because it's not the hypnosis or the neurolinguistic programming or all these tools that are out there. It's you that has the magic. It's your mind, your brain. You are the one with the magic. These tools are a way of tapping into it and unleashing it so that you can feel mesmerizing and confident and empowered in your life. And so now it's been 30 years since I've had that experience. And I've been seeking the best, most powerful cutting edge tools out there for how to train your brain for success. And now that I've acquired them, I've made it a mission for, a couple of decades now to share these amazing tools and insights with as many people as possible so we can end needless suffering, so we can learn how to really love and accept ourselves, develop unstoppable confidence, and use the power of our mind to create our life by design. And so that's why I'm doing this now, and that's why I'm so excited to be with you, Jordan, on your program.
Yes. I couldn't have said it better myself.
You probably can. You've got a gift, my brother. You got a gift.
Well, there is something when clients come to me and people message me, there's always one thing that they always talk about, and it is confidence. They say, look, like, I've been trying this, and if I had confidence, everything would work out. If I had confidence, I'd be able to get the girl. If I had confidence, I'd be better at my grades. I'd be able to crush this. And then I think about it, and like, maybe they're right. So like, what are some tools that you believe that someone, at my age, or could you imagine if you had unstoppable confidence at 20 years old? What would you do today?
I would quite possibly own the world at 20. I'm almost 50 now, and if I knew what I knew back then, it probably would have been dangerous. So, which is why I'm always making sure that you are coming from such a great place, because you have these skills, but you have such high ethics and such a big heart that I get excited about what you're going to do. So, the first thing we do is we change the language. If I had confidence, it's not that you don't have it, because saying if I had it implies that it's something outside of you that you have to go get. And that is false, right? So instead, what we say is, if I believed in my confidence, if I believed in myself more, then I could do this and this and this. And that's correct. I agree as well. If you believed more, because it's not something you have to go get, you already have these superpowers inside of you. We just have to turn them on. You just have to start believing. So the very first tool, I'll give you 3 ways to build mesmerizing confidence. As you said, unstoppable confidence, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is go after your beliefs. Your beliefs are like these life rules that we have in our unconscious mind. And these rules kind of determine how we see the world, right? What we believe in. Do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe in others? Do we think the world is an exciting place full of abundance and opportunity? Or do we believe that the world is a mean place that constantly kicks our butt and we don't have any control over it, right? And so we've got to make sure that we understand what these beliefs are, because anything that you're trying to get to, any goal that you have, there's usually a belief in the way that's keeping you stuck. And that belief, if we upgrade it and transform it and make it stronger and more self-serving and loving, then that block becomes a stepping stone that allows you to get higher in your life and see from a broader perspective. It gives you more of a perspective, and then that gives you the ability to start getting better results. So the biggest self-limiting belief that we all have, I don't know if all of us, but most all of us have, is that fear that we're not enough. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not confident enough. We're not really at the essence of our soul really enough to pull this off. That's our greatest fear. And if we're not good enough, then we won't be loved. And so then how do we feel loved? How do we feel like we're enough? And that's what our brain starts to figure out next, is survival, right? So, all right, do I need to be the funny one? Do I need to be the smart one? Do I need to be the one who accomplishes everything? Or maybe I'm going to be the one who's the best partier, or I'm going to be the one who gets all the ladies or all the men, or I'm going to be the one that has the most stuff. Or maybe you get attention by, I'm going to be the one who has the most piercings and the brightest colored hair. Or I'm going to be the one who is the screw up, who never gets anything done, and he gets lots of attention, or she gets lots of attention, but it's the negative attention. It's the wrong kind of attention. But our brain is always trying to figure out, how am I going to stand out and get love? And so usually what drives us as if you're being driven by these self-limiting beliefs, then what happens is you're going through life playing not to lose, which causes you to lose a lot even when you're winning. So what we do is we start to upgrade your beliefs so that you start to play to win. And when that happens, you start winning in all kinds of ways.
I love that. Play to win. I remember when we first met, I said, look, Tim, I have this problem. And like I snuck into a TED Talk to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you didn't know that at the time, but
I love it now.
yeah, for sure. I snuck in just because I was just hungry for this knowledge, still am. And I remember you said, well, take a class on NLP, hypnosis, stuff like that, tools like you said earlier. But and you said, well, your problem isn't just a belief system. I said, okay, right. Is it really? And then I realized, after a few months of us chatting back and forth, I realized it is a belief, and it's crazy. And I was getting stuff, and then I'd pull myself back down because I wasn't achieving what I wanted to. But the reason was there was this belief in my head, and I asked myself, well, what is it? And I remember my grandpa, his voice, he said, son, I just lost a baseball game, and I was like 7 years old. Oh, I was so furious. I was so upset. And he said, well, son, everything that goes up in life must come down. But I realized my emotions and success isn't like gravity. That's just not how it works.
Right.
But for some reason, my subconscious and it just thought, oh, that totally makes sense. But it doesn't. And then I was like, always had to be like the funny one or something like that, or like the one who did more or was more out there. And then figuring that out really helped me just step out of the way of myself and really able to achieve more. So I think you're extremely right, and definitely playing to win, incredible, an incredible shift.
Yeah,
I love it. So then what would be the second step? If we went from beliefs, if we handled out beliefs, so we change our language, right, and our beliefs, and then what do we do after we play to win instead of not to lose?
Well, let me give you some tips on how to change those beliefs, because I think that's going to be a question a lot of people have. Okay, I want to change my beliefs. How do you do it? So let me just give you some things that I've been doing, because I've been practicing with tens of thousands of people for the last 25 years now that I've been in practice. And so one of the things we do is we figure out, try to get in touch with the feeling that you have that holds you back. So if you feel like you don't have confidence, think about not having confidence and get in touch with that feeling that you have. And then ask yourself, when was the first time I remember feeling this feeling? And just kind of see where your mind takes you, right? And it'll go back to maybe when you were 7 years old, and you wanted to hit the big, hit the ball in the baseball game and you struck out instead. Or, your parents were fighting or they got a divorce and all of a sudden you're having that anxiety and there's a part of you that feels like it was your fault, which is ridiculous, right? But we have all kinds of ideas that interpretations that we get from the experiences that we go through. Our mind is always trying to make meaning and sense out of everything. And a lot of times when you're a kid, it makes up stories that are just false, but we don't know it. Because like what you said earlier, we think that this is reality. We think it's how it is, even when it isn't, right? We really believe the stories we tell ourselves. The problem is, what if the story you're telling yourself is false, which a lot of times it is. And so, fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. And so we go back and we try to figure out what that situation was that started to give you that belief. And then what you do is you start to change the memory in your mind, right? It's not what happens to us. It's how we interpret what happens to us. It's the belief that comes from it. So if, let's just say that if I'm 7 years old and someone punches me in the arm really hard, okay, and my arm hurts, and in that moment, my 7-year-old brain says, I am unsafe. I can get hurt. I'm afraid and I'm not standing up for myself. So that means that I am weak, okay? And that means that the world is dangerous and I am unsafe. And I get that belief. And now my brain is always trying to keep me out of danger. So which means that I worry about everything all the time. I think about all the worst things that could happen because my brain's trying to keep me from being in those situations. So I'm trying to avoid pain by putting myself through all kinds of unnecessary pain and suffering. Now let's fast forward. I'm 20 years old or 30 years old, And I feel like I can't get what I want because I never go for it because I'm afraid that I will get hurt. I will be let down. You can't trust people. I'll be disappointed. Now, that belief came from being punched in the arm when I was 7. Now, my arm doesn't hurt anymore. That happened years ago, right? Where I got hit, my arm doesn't hurt anymore. But the belief that came from that situation is keeping the pain alive. Mentally, in my mind, it's like I'm punching myself in the arm every single day. And there's no reason for that. So what you do is you go back to that memory when you get punched in the arm and you say, hey, we're not doing that anymore. And you imagine blocking the person. You imagine that you get hit and then that person disappears and you're able to comfort that little boy. See, I used to get mad at myself for being scared all the time. So I had a lot of anger problems and impulse control. I used to punch a lot of holes in my room, and then I'd have posters everywhere because I didn't know how to deal with my anger, right? And my anger came from feeling scared, and my scared came from feeling like I wasn't enough to protect myself.
Yes.
And so what I did then was I would imagine going back to when I was 7, and instead of being angry at him, I start loving him. I'd say, you're safe. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. The world is a good place too. You can surround yourself with loving people. You don't have any power when you're a kid, but as an adult, you're stronger. You have more power. You have more control. You can learn how to punch back, or you can learn how to run faster, or you can learn how to keep yourself safe with other people, or you can learn how to be friends with the toughest guy you know. There's lots of things that you can do now as an adult. And so what you do then is you go back to that situation and you give that little boy or girl inside love, reassurance, care. Now, sometimes people say, what if I don't believe that or feel that? Well, that's okay. Fake it till you become it, right? In the moment, love that little kid. What kind of person are you? Are you going to make that little kid suffer, or are you going to try to be nicer to them? Okay? Decide what kind of person you want to be, not kind of person you think you are. And so then you love that kid, you make them feel good, and then you ask them the $1 million question, Jordan, which is, what would you rather believe instead? Because you can believe whatever you want. Beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are just opinions, and you can believe whatever you want. So if you can go back and say, you know what, I'm going to believe that I am enough, that I am safe, that I'm going to be there for myself, that I'm going to feel good about me, so that no matter what happens to me, I'm going to have my own back. I'm going to be okay. You change that belief. Then you imagine as an adult moving forward having this new belief. So if you're afraid to go talk to somebody in a dating scene, you're afraid that they're going to reject you, which means that you're probably rejecting you in your mind first. If we're afraid that people are going to reject us, it's because we're in our head rejecting ourselves first. And if you are in your head loving and accepting yourself first, then you're just going to assume that other people will do that more. And a lot of times that's what will happen. Because you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. So what we do in that moment then is we say, well, I'm going to go talk to that person, and if they say no or they're not interested, that's their stuff. That's not me. We're maybe just not a good fit. Thanks for letting me know. Or I'm going to assume that they want to hang out with me because I'm awesome. And that's where confidence comes from. It's you loving and accepting yourself no matter what other people do or say, because that's their issues, not yours. So that is step 1 for building those beliefs. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm taking note.
Yeah, good. I'm laying a lot of stuff on you. It took me a long time to pick up all this.
Well, see, I understand the process, what you're talking about. In order for the followers to be listening, so if they took this away and they're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. If they're driving, of course, don't close your eyes while you're driving. Come on, pull over, do it. But if they decided to do this, right? And they imagine that first time they felt that feeling, right? Back sometime maybe in their past or childhood, could be a few weeks from now or whatever. And they feel this feeling. So they imagine, okay, when was that? And they see that old memory. And then when they see that old memory, just to recap, they go to that person and tell them, what would you rather believe instead?
Yeah. Well, they comfort them first.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we need love. We need to feel protected. We need some understanding of what's going on. You know, when you're 7, you might not understand a lot of what's going on. But when you're 20, you have a lot more experience. Or you're 30, you have a lot more awareness than you did when you were a kid. So you can go back and say, your parents aren't fighting because you're bad. They're fighting because they're fighting. They're stressed. That's where they're at. That's their stuff, not yours. Right? But you go back and you give that little kid reassurance, love, support, understanding, protection. Because again, we want to feel safe and we want to feel loved. And we think that we need to get that validation from outside of us. But I've done this thousands of times with thousands of people. And every time, the person that you need the most love and acceptance from is you. So you've got to go back and give it to that little boy or girl that really lives inside of you. You do that first. And once they feel loved and safe, then you can focus on what would you rather believe instead.
Absolutely. And to the people who are listening, like, this sounds so simple, so simplistic. I mean, it sounds like, oh, well, okay, I imagine myself, like, seeing myself, hugging myself, giving myself love and assurance. Like, okay, then after that, like, will it really work? The thing is, like, do you remember when I messaged you? I said, hey, like, how do you get rid of tics? Because I was going to a client's house to see if I could get rid of tics. And this is what I did. I had them go back to their childhood where they first felt this memory.
Yeah.
And I said, what does that little boy need? What does he need to hear? Tell him exactly what he needs to hear. And imagine hugging him and, like, holding him and imagine him right there. And he did it. And this kid began to just, like, he's not a crier. I'll tell you what. But he began to just release.
Yeah.
He had Tourette's. Like, he had full-blown Tourette's. And his doctor is like, I don't know what happened. Like, there's nothing wrong now. He doesn't have it. And it's just because of that. There's a moment where he just needed to love himself. And now he's more comfortable, more social. Yeah. So for the people who are listening, this is a very valuable tool. And we're only one step into it. So.
Yeah, try it first and then judge it. You know, if you're looking at a meal and saying, you know, it's going to be gross, well, try it first and then judge it, right? And so when you have that experience, now it sounds simple and simplistic because I've made it this way. This can be a very complicated set of tools and strategies. My job is to take really complicated psychological processes and make them feel simple and easy to use so that you do it, so that you put it into action. And so, yeah, sometimes it'll sound over simple, but that's on purpose.
Yes.
You know, we designed it to feel easy so that you do it. Yeah. So, and then step number 2 for building mesmerizing confidence would be to set goals for yourself and start achieving them. Okay. Because most of your confidence doesn't come from you just saying nice things to yourself. It comes from you taking action and getting positive feedback, right? It comes from you achieving goals. Now, what we do is you say, all right, well, what would I like to feel more of? How would I like to feel in my life? You want to feel more peaceful? What are some things that you could do to start to feel more peaceful, right? Who could you hang out with? What podcast could you listen to? Like subscribing to Jordan's podcast, my podcast, going and hanging around with other people who are going to be part of your good vibe tribe, that are going to support you and lift you up. If you're around a bunch of people that are bringing you down, you got to shift your peer group, right? So, and so listening to audio programs, watching funny videos or inspiring videos on YouTube or Instagram, going to classes, reading books, empowering yourself, becoming a student of success, happiness, and prosperity, of self-love, that's where it's at. So you got to set some small goals and then accomplish them. A lot of times the sabotage is people they don't set goals, or they set really big goals. Like, I'm not going to be happy until I lose 50 pounds. I'm not going to be happy until I make $10,000 a month. I'm not going to be happy until I'm rolling around in a fancy car. I'm not going to be happy until I have this person in my life. That's a sabotage. What happens is you focus on your happiness first, and because you feel happy, the motivation, the confidence, and all those things flow into your life. Your goal is not to chase things. Your goal is to attract this to you. And the way you do that is by going within and doing the inner work. So set some small goals and start knocking those goals down, and then that's going to start to build up your confidence.
That is so beautifully said. Just incredible. So I remember when we were talking recently, and I said, don't mistake movement for achievement.
Yes.
So in this part of the step, this is what most people do. Most people they're like, all right, cool, I do want to lose 50 pounds, but they completely don't even think about feeling what it's actually going to give them, what it's actually going to make them feel like. But then if they feel that way, the weight will come off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is one of my biggest things. I came to you, I was like, look, I want to do this goal. I want to, make this amount of money. I want to do this with my business. And you're just like, stop. just don't. Like, what are you doing? And I'm behind the phone like,
What? I'm doing what everybody says you're supposed to do.
yeah, I was doing everything else. Like, I mapped it out since November, and you're just like, no, you're doing it all wrong. And I was like,
Not that you were doing it all wrong. It's just that we're solving the wrong problem. And that took me a long time to figure out. We go gung-ho trying to solve the wrong problem. And so that even if we do figure out how to solve the problem, it doesn't give us the results that we're looking for. And then we're like, why? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Why don't I deserve this? Why do other people have this success and I don't? I'm smarter than them. You know, we'll have all kinds of things. And so what I've learned is that we're often solving the wrong problem. Okay. So the example that we talked about that I shared with you, but also we all go through the same stuff really, is what we're trying to do is, how do I make more money? Okay, because if I have more money, then I'll have more stuff, then I'll have more confidence, which is backwards, right? We start with the confidence and then we have all the other stuff. So, because I will tell you, I made more money than I ever made my whole entire life, and I still was scared. I was still afraid I was just going to lose it, or it was going to stop coming, or I would, make dumb decisions like taking everybody out all the time, and then I ended up with a whole bunch of credit card debt. And so just because I wanted people to like me, and that was such a sabotage, but I was desperate at the time to feel wanted and to feel good because I wasn't doing it for myself. So the question isn't, how do I make more money? The question is, what will having that money do for you? That's a magic question, and everybody should be writing that down. What will having whatever this is do for you? Success, money, fame, relationships, more stuff, an awesome body. What do you think you're going to get from having that stuff? And that's what you go after. Well, I'll have more peace in my life. Then the real problem is, how do I have more peace in my life? Well, I'll feel more confident about myself. Okay, well, the focus then is, how do I build more confidence in myself, right? Well, more people will respect me. Okay, cool. So the real question is, how do you learn to respect yourself more? Because again, if we want other people to respect us, that means that they're not. We feel like they're not. And then if we feel like others aren't respecting us, then it's probably because we're not respecting ourselves. And if we're not respecting ourselves, we're probably not acting respectful. And because we're not behaving in a respectful way, it's getting mirrored back by other people not giving us that respect. It always comes back to what's going on inside of our head and in our heart. And so if we focus on finding the right problem to solve, we're going to get the results faster, and they'll be more sustainable and more genuine.
Yes. I love it. So after step 2, after you kind of figure all that out.
Yeah.
So what is the step 3?
Step 3 is your environment, right? Your environment has to reinforce you. So the way it works is your environment, your surroundings, your atmosphere influences how you think. How you think influences how you feel. How you feel determines how you behave. And how you behave, the actions that you consistently take, produce an outcome. They produce feedback. And that feedback, is your experience of what's happening in life. And then it just kind of, how you behave influences your environment, and then that influences how you think, and it's this big loop, right? It's like a big circle. And so what you do is you start by influencing your environment. So right now, if people were not listening to this podcast, they would not hear these insights. They would not get these aha moments. They would not have these oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Just being here listening to us right now creates an energy inside of you that is already getting you halfway there, right? Having the awareness, the new perception, it's already taking you halfway to your goals. And so then, but if you weren't here and you weren't hearing these things, then you wouldn't have the insights, you wouldn't have the energy, you wouldn't have the momentum. So listening to your podcast, Jordan, is what's helping people to be successful, because they have you as part of their good vibe tribe. And so that's an example. When I was younger, I would go to the library, because we didn't have the internet at the time. We didn't have smartphones at the time. Our telephones had long cords attached to the wall, right? And so, because I'm older, right? And so I would go to the library and check, because I was broke, so I would go to the library and I would check out audio cassette tapes, and I would put them in my Walkman player, and I would put my headphones on, and I would walk around the block with Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, all these greats at the time, and they were my best friends, and I would train my brain for success. And I've been doing that my whole life, and so I really equate a huge part of my success in life to listening to these audio programs. Now we have podcasts. You can go right on your phone and just stream it. I mean, it's kind of amazing how easy and accessible it is. And but that was my environment. So I didn't have anybody that I knew were millionaires. I didn't have anybody that were really peaceful and happy. All I saw was everybody just living, doing their thing with a whole bunch of stress. And so I made my friends people that I never really had met in person. Now I've met Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar, the late Zig Ziglar, and the late Wayne Dyer, and a lot of my idols, and so it's pretty amazing. But at the time, I just used their materials to help build me up. So your environment is crucial to your confidence.
That's incredible. I remember when I first started personal growth, self-development, I remember always hearing, like, you become your 5 closest friends or the people you hang around the most. Yeah. I was like, I don't think so. And I was like, I don't know, 15 at the time. And I realized, like, well, all my friends are like kind of doing what 15-year-old would do in a small town. And I didn't like it, actually. And I was like, I don't like this. So I stopped hanging out with them. And I think that was the most difficult part to do. I think stop hanging out with your old friends that you have all these memories with and stuff was the hardest part. And then but what happened was I had more energy. I had more time to go out and seek out people like you and all those other people that I began to learn from. Yeah. And as I did that, here's something funny. I spent a whole month basically in this mansion with one of my mentors. And afterwards, I was wondering why people were treating me differently. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't understand. I didn't put this on my Snapchat, didn't put it on social media. I was just wondering, I wonder why. Like, why are people responding to me better? Why are people more open? Like, hey, like, how are you? And I mean, girls in particular were doing that. And I was like, okay, this is weird. What's going on? Like, nobody knows I was here. And I came back and I asked Jeff, and I was like, all right, Jeff, what's going on? He goes, what happened was you probably got by osmosis a higher status type of feel to things, right? You're talking slower, your posture's more upright, the way you're doing things. I said, nah. And I realized, like, that's actually what was happening, because I started hanging around with other people and they did the same thing. And I was like, this is incredible. So changing your environment is so crucial. And we'll actually have an episode on that fairly soon. So that's really cool.
That's an outstanding story. I love that story, Jordan. It's so good. And there's something too, because you've done it a couple of times, and I just want to point it out because I think it's really great for people to recognize this, because I know you recognize it. There's like 3 steps for a breakthrough, and step number 1 is resistance, right? Pushback. Nah, that can't be it. No, that's not right. Nah, that don't jive with that, right? So whenever we're trying to create a new shift, a new paradigm, a paradigm is a fancy word for saying a new belief, right? Whenever we're trying to shift, then there's always resistance first, even if we really want the breakthrough. People will come into my office saying, I really want this, and then they'll proceed to sabotage themselves like crazy. I'm like, I thought you wanted this. You're doing the opposite of it, right? You say you want confidence, and then you spend all day saying mean things to yourself. That doesn't sound like someone who wants confidence. That sounds like you're fighting to stay unconfident, okay? And so we have resistance. The second step is confusion, because now we've let go of the old idea, but we haven't fully bought in to the new idea or new belief yet. It doesn't quite feel right. And so then we have this little tug of war, because we're like, I don't know, right? And so it's kind of like, if we use a religious metaphor, it's like you just got out of hell, but you're not in heaven, so you're in this middle place, what they call purgatory, right? And what most people do in purgatory, they feel like they don't know what to grab onto, so they go back to hell because at least it's warm there. And so, but your goal is to keep going forward and keep using the stuff you're learning until you get to heaven, right? And so step 3 is the breakthrough. So we go through resistance, confusion, and breakthrough every single time. So as soon as you catch yourself going, nah, that should be a red flag. That should go, oh, wait a second.
why am I resisting right now? And then you get excited. Holy crap, I might be getting ready for a huge breakthrough.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yes.
resistance, confusion, and breakthrough.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard you explain it that way before. I enjoy that. You do make it so simple where it just resonates immediately and just, oh, it's incredible.
I'm a simple guy.
When you said,
I gotta keep it easy.
yeah, of course. I remember when you said a while back, I think it was you. It said something like, if you want to make a shift, especially when you're in your environment or whatever you're going to change, like motivation or anything, it's 80% psychology, 20% mechanics.
Yeah.
And I was really confused again, because I was like, I feel like there's rich people who are dumb. There's people who,
Yeah. People make a lot of money and you meet them, you're like, how has this happened?
Yeah.
And why am I not crazy rich?
Yeah. It's like easy for me to say, right? Like, so then it's like, okay, then what does that mean? And then I started, like, when I surround myself with people like yourself and other people, it's so true. They work harder on themselves than I've seen than anything else. Their business, nope, they work harder on themselves. Their relationship, nope, they work harder on themselves. Their body, nope, they're still working harder on themselves, like on their own, on their person. And then for some reason, it's like they fill themselves up. And then when they fill themselves up, they're able to achieve more and give to people more. Because people are trying to, like, they're pushing the gas, and they're running out of gas. And then they're stuck. And it feels like, oh, and then they think on a surface level, it's like a motivation problem. They're like, oh, it didn't work. It's a motivation thing. And they don't know what to do. So what do you think are some maybe a quick tip, I guess, so we keep it short for you, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. What would it be to stay motivated, I guess?
So let's review what you said, because what you said was fantastic. And so the first thing we got to do is work harder on ourselves than we do our business. Because at the end of the day, your biggest business is yourself, your mental and emotional and physical well-being and happiness, because that attracts more opportunities. And when you feel good, your mind looks for other opportunities that are going to help you feel good. And that's exciting. That's when you're able to act on these opportunities that appear, right? And so I'm not going to go too much into creating success, but more just focus on what we're talking about here, about confidence, okay? So when it comes to confidence, we got to fill ourselves up. And then step 2, once you learn how to really take care of yourself, then it's all about filling other people up, okay? Then you learn to become others-sorted, others-focused, where now it doesn't always have to be about you anymore because you're good. Now you have the confidence and the internal feeling of security where you don't have to make everything about you anymore. Because sometimes people get carried away and they think, oh, it's all about me. And now they're not paying attention to how they're coming across or how they're taking care of others, because now it's all about me, right? And they've missed the essential step 2. So in the beginning, you got to take care of yourself, fill yourself up with love. And then step 2 is become others focused. Now that I feel good, how do I share that feeling with others? How do I become someone who continually adds value? If you want to be wealthy and successful in life, then remember this. The more value you bring to others, the more valuable you will become. The more value you bring, the more valuable you become. So once you feel good inside, your goal is to keep sharing it with others. Fill your own cup up, fill a pitcher of love and confidence up inside of you, and then go fill everybody's glass. And then come back, fill yourself up on, fill everybody's glass. What most people are doing is they're showing up with empty glasses, asking each other to fill me up, fill me up. Relationships are like this all the time. 2 people show up with empty glasses. Why aren't you filling me up? Why aren't you doing what I like? Well, why aren't you filling me up? And well, what's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with you? Right? And so pretty soon we're throwing our glasses on the ground and feeling sorry for ourselves, right? So instead, you focus on fill yourself up. If you're in a relationship, you fill yourself up, they fill themselves up, you come together with abundance, and it's a beautiful thing. So I think that that's the second most important part of it, is once you take care of you, then you focus on helping other people feel supported, encouraged, loved, appreciated, and valued. And as you do that, and you can do it through a smile, through saying it'll be okay, through listening to people, through encouraging them, through giving compliments, Another way to build your confidence is to give more compliments to other people, because then it'll feel okay to receive compliments and to compliment yourself more as well. And then, because sometimes it's easier to compliment others than ourselves. We want to change that so it feels good to do both. So if you do both of those steps, that's really how you that's how you take your success and happiness and confidence to a whole other level.
Mind blown. Absolutely mind blown. So to clarify, when you fill yourself up, and correct me if I'm wrong, my version of fill yourself up is kind of like this. It's like, if you imagine a Coke can, and then a little boy, like a 5-year-old boy, could come up and crush your Coke can, right? Super simple with his bare hands, right? And then that's kind of what most people are. They're not filled up. They're kind of empty, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But if you take this can, you fill it up and you seal the top, right?
Yeah.
You take a bodybuilder, right? This maybe a little boy's dad or something, and take it, and he tries to, crush it. It's almost impossible for him to do so because his eyes and it's filled all the way up.
Yeah.
That's what it's like when you fill yourself up. I mean, stuff can come at you and you're prepared for it. You have a readiness.
Yeah.
When you have that readiness, you're able to just tackle more and do more. And I think, and what you mean by this is taking a little bit of time to yourself, fill yourself up. Either it's maybe a daily meditation, a daily activity, fill yourself up first before you go and give. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that metaphor. It's an awesome metaphor. When you feel empty, you can get crushed easier. When you fill up, it's harder. Once you fill up and you have your environment that keeps filling you up on a daily basis, and then you're adding value for others as well, now you're not just a soda bottle. You're like one of those water coolers. Right? So now, I don't care how strong you are. Let's see you crush one of those full water coolers. Ain't going to happen. And that's where we want to get to if you want mesmerizing confidence.
I love that.
And I have an amen, brother Jordan.
Amen. I love it.
Amen. Everybody listening right now, say amen.
Amen. So to review, wrap this up because I know you got a busy schedule. Let's do. So you have the steps to have mesmerizing confidence. I love that too. It just makes you want to just know it more. Because I've seen you work with people and it is just incredible. If you guys don't know who Tim is just by far one of the most incredible people. He just has this crazy weird sense. I'm pretty sure he's not real. He can't be a real human being. There's no way. That part on Men in Black where it has that panel of all those aliens? Tim's on there. I'm telling you, he's on there. He's on that panel because he has this weird sense of getting to know what exactly someone needs. I've been able to be so grateful and learn from him directly. It's just it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing.
You're making me as red as that shirt you're wearing. So yeah, that's really sweet. I appreciate that. And the reason I'm so in tune to what's going on inside of others is really because of two things. One, because I have such a desire to end that needless suffering because I know how horrible it is to feel that way and to walk around feeling like you're nothing, right? And so I really can relate. And then the second part of it is I've also worked so hard on filling up my water cooler that I can really make it about the person in front of me as opposed to what I need or what I'm going to get from this, right? It's needless. There's no strings attached. And people really feel that authenticity because I really am wanting to just help and serve. And of course, 3, I've done my homework. I've been studying ferociously for a long, long time, many years. You can tell by, if you're watching this, there's not as much hair on my head as there used to be. My brain is growing so big, it's literally pushing the hair out. It's weird. I don't know. When you do that, that gives you some skills, right? When you have passion and you have your skills, that's why I get so excited about where you're going to be, even just a couple of years from now, because your heart is in such a good place, and you're so smart already. And that's why I get excited to share with you what I've learned. Because for you to know this stuff now at your age and then start from there, oh my gosh, it's going to be incredible. So, that's why I always make time to hang out with you as much as I can.
Oh, well, thanks, Tim. So for everyone, to wrap it up, it is beliefs, first step. Got to tackle your beliefs. Go to those memories that make you feel like doo-doo and figure out why, right? And then ask yourself, right, certain quality questions, right? What would you rather feel like? First, give it comfort. Give your old self comfort and love and appreciation. And then from there, right, ask what would you rather believe instead? What would be more empowering? What would make you love yourself even more? What would allow you to do more? And then do more. Take the second step and make a goal. And then something interesting happens when you eliminate like these beliefs. These beliefs have been holding you back. It's like you've been running with this parachute on for a really long time, like this huge boulder. And you think it's like, you might have been able to achieve a few things. You have no idea. You can't even imagine what will happen once you get rid of these beliefs. Like these beliefs that would be holding you back, it's like you've been building this muscle this whole time with this parachute or this like 15-ton boulder on your back. As soon as you drop that, you sprint. It's incredible. So then when you'll begin to notice when you take these goals on, you'll achieve them faster than normal. And it's kind of weird to get used to, but you'll get used to it. And then number 3 is your environment. Making sure you're able to surround yourself with positive things like this, like Tim, like me. Definitely going to Tim's podcast, looking it up, because I mean, if you enjoy this podcast, you're 100% going to enjoy his, because I mean, this is kind of the guy where I learned from. So, I mean, I would definitely go over there. It's pretty incredible. And then once you're in your environment, continuously grow, right? Fill yourself up with this type of material. And as you continuously grow, you'll bloom, you'll blossom, and you'll be able to give it to others. Spot on?
Spot on. Love it. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a great review. Yeah. So if people want to join my podcast, you can go to timsure.com/podcast. And timsure.com/podcast. And that way you can follow the links for Apple or if you have an Android. So there's lots of ways where you can join the podcast. But please do, because I interview a lot of amazing people. And also we go deep into this. And so I think it's amazing that we get to come together and share our ideas and our stories and support, because then people really are able to take off. Now, let me give you one more resource. If you go to Cure, so that's Cure, like there's a cure for the flu, so Cure, C-U-R-E, cureforselfsabotage.com, all one word, cureforselfsabotage.com. There's a free ebook you can get, and it's called The Cure for Self-Sabotage. And you can download it, and it'll give you 10 really powerful strategies for how to start using the power of your mind to create your life by design so you can develop mesmerizing confidence. So join the podcast and grab that free ebook. That'll get you on my newsletter. And then the newsletter, I don't send a lot of them because I don't have much time to do it, but it'll give you the links for all the other resources I have. And, Jordan, I just want to reinforce that you're so right. I love the metaphor of running with a parachute on. I think that's awesome. And you're right. You do sprint when you release that. So real life example, I've been trying for a couple of months to get on a news program and finally got on it. And so I was on there yesterday morning, and today I got an email back from the news program saying, would you like to come back next week for another one? Now, it took me months to get on the first one, right? So it took months for me to get on the first one. And I got on the first one, and then I cut the parachute, right? And took off. And the next thing I know, the very next morning, the producer's on there going, hey, we want you back next week, right? And that's what it's about. Once you take off, in one way, and you pay your dues and you keep going forward and you keep believing in yourself and your goals and you keep going towards them, then eventually it's going to click. And when it clicks, all these other things start clicking, and it feels like it's just happening on its own. And it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. I was going to ask you what was going on after the podcast, but I'm so happy you brought that up. That is a perfect real life example. And all the links to everything that you were talking about earlier will be in the description below, in the show notes. There's going to be all the main key points of Tim's mesmerizing confidence, which when you're around this dude, it is mesmerizing. because like you're like pulled into it. And then once these steps are the same steps he's told me. Like these are the same steps I took to get to where I am, and like how I feel inside, and then how I'm able to help other people feel inside. So it's no BS. I mean, it gets rid of the BS, so you can get more
BS. Limiting belief systems. That's what BS is. Belief systems.
Yes, belief systems. They should know that by now. I would hope. So. But yeah, is there anything else you want to say to all the young listeners?
Yeah, go out there and be awesome. You are awesome. You just have to own it, right? So quit walking around telling yourself this crappy story just because you had bad stuff happen to you in your life. We've all had bad stuff happen. You are awesome. Just get over it and own it, right? Use the tools that you learned in here and start telling yourself, I'm awesome even though I've been through bad crap. I'm awesome even though I felt scared before. I'm awesome even though because I didn't feel like I was worthy enough to even live. And you know what? I am worthy. I'm one of God's greatest creations ever. And so you need to just own your awesomeness and things will start to improve from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. I agree. Yes. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jordan. I really appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Hey, would you like more free tips on how to be a mesmerizing leader? Then check out mesmerizingleadership.com and also hang out with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Sure. Thanks so much and make your day a sure success.